I'm sure that you probably have something to say about the passing of Robin Williams this week.
Well, I think that in order to understand that, I think that we have to go to a story out of China this week. The Telegraph is reporting, and other sites are reporting about a man who was walking down the street in China, and he walks into a store, a convenience store, to buy something, and he looks at the teller, and the teller has this dumbfounded look on his face, and the guy, the guy behind the counter says, "Don't you know you have a 5-inch knife sticking out of your head?" And the guy had no idea that he had a knife sticking out the top of his head. Now, apparently, the guy on his way to the store, somebody working 5 stories up, had dropped a knife with a 5-inch blade on it, and it landed, and it came in contact with his head, and went. It didn't go through his skull, but it went between his skin and his skull, right down the side of where his ear is there. And it was just sticking straight up as he walked into the store, and he had no idea that this knife had gone into his head. And when the teller pointed this out, the article says, when the teller pointed this out to the man, all of a sudden, Brandon, his entire head was awash in pain.
Yes.
And it wasn't until he had this pointed out to him that he even knew he had a problem at all. In fact, he had no idea that he had this knife sticking out of his head with a 5-inch blade until the teller pointed it out. And it was only then, Brandon, and I make this point again, it was only then that he felt any pain at all. And this confirms a major premise in my book, Fast Track to Freedom. Now, I'm not selling books. I'm pointing this out. The book is free. If you send me an email, ppsimmons@live.com, I will send you a link to the free book. I'm not selling books using Robin Williams' death to sell books. But it does, this man in China does confirm a major premise in my book, and it is this, that pain is focused thought.
Yes.
That's what pain is. And I believe, now there is a story out there, Movie Guide founder and chairman of the Christian Film and Television Commission, Dr. Ted Baer, he met with Williams on several occasions. This is reported on WorldNet Daily, by the way. WND.com is reporting that Baer, he met with Williams several times here. And he said that he shared Christ with Williams, and Williams said that he had actually received Christ at a meeting for his addiction problem. So he was going to these meetings, and he actually received Christ at a meeting. But he said it never took. He never received he never got the deliverance that Christ promised him. And so he just walked away from it, right?
Yeah.
And he never and he does exemplify. And the seed is sown, and some of it's sown on and the birds eat it up, and some of it falls on the rocks and withers away, and some of it falls among the thorns, and the thorns choke it out. And Robin Williams had a thorny life. He was married 3 times, paying alimony to the first 2 wives. Reports are coming in now that he was on the verge of bankruptcy. The only reason he wanted to do any work at all was because he had to, because he had to pay all this money out to these wives, and he had a tremendous amount of debt, and he battled depression, and the man had a thorny existence. And it seems to me like even though we make a profession of faith, the thorns of life choke. Like I always say, if I talk somebody into receiving Christ, somebody smarter than me can talk them out of it later on, you know. If it's not the Lord speaking to them directly, you know, Jesus said, whom the Lord sets free is free indeed. So just because somebody talked Robin Williams into a profession of faith, that does not mean that the Lord had any impact on his life at all.
Right. And Mike, I just want to make the point real quick while you're there, that what you're saying is so important, because so often the discussion comes up today about can you lose your salvation? You know, are you truly saved forever if you're saved? You know, I've always heard it said best that you are truly saved forever. You once saved if you were truly saved the first time. And I want to read a quote out of that Robin Williams article on WND, because here's how Robin Williams sums up his experience, I'm going to say, with God. And he says,
right,
you get a real strong sense of God when you go through rehab. Williams said, having the idea of a really loving and forgiving God really helps if you're an alcoholic. Someone going, it's okay. Remember, there was wine at the Last Supper. Now, you and I are certainly not here to judge Robin Williams' soul. But if that summed up the depth of his, quote, Christianity, then I certainly have my doubts.
Well, listen, and that's very true, and obviously he did not have a sufficient enough walk with the Lord that he would be delivered from these focused thoughts. And I want to get back to that point of the focused thoughts, because at the end of the day, Robin Williams was so focused on the negative parts of his life that he ended up killing himself.
Right.
And that is why they're being scolded or they're sulking or they've been corrected on something. Should never allow their children to go to their room and spend too much time focused on the problem.
Yes.
They should draw them out and let them talk about it. Get them to talk. I'll tell you, here is Williams, by the way, who gave us the reason why he was so focused on his problem. And other people have touched on this, but let's go ahead and talk about this. It's a very important subject, and it has to do with outside influence. And when I say outside influence, I mean the kind of outside. When she was reporting on the death of Robin Williams, she said Robin Williams battled demons. This is what Greta Van Susteren said on her show, that Robin Williams battled the demons. And Robin Williams, he was interviewed on Sirius Satellite Radio a while back with Whoopi Goldberg. They had a special town hall meeting there, wherein Robin Williams was promoting the beginning of his show called The Crazy Ones. It was a new TV show that he was doing, and he said that basically he was doing the TV show because he needed the money. And he said that the topic of one of his movies called What Dreams May Come, wherein Robin Williams did a great job with this movie, which dealt with heaven and hell. And at the end of the movie, it basically concluded that the reincarnation isn't the real thing. So theologically speaking, you have to hang your brain on the coat rack before you watch this movie. But it's a great movie. I enjoyed it, and it really does get people thinking about heaven and hell. And so Whoopi Goldberg said, "Look, what do you really think about hell, Robin Williams?" And, he liked to joke about everything, really. And his opening joke was, "Well, hell is a really long interview." That's what he said. Hell is, but
especially with Whoopi Goldberg.
He may have been hinting at that too, right? But then finally he got serious about it. He said, "This is what Robin Williams said." Now, people should have gotten the clue back then, because Robin Williams said this about hell. He said, "Hell is when the voices tell me to drink this drink, or when the voices tell me to take this drug, or when the voices tell me to do this or that with this woman." He said, "That is hell to me." Yeah. Now listen, Robin Williams, the reason he had this tremendous focus on his problem, the reason that he was honed in, focused thought, which brought about the pain in his mind, the pain in his life, which can be physical pain, emotional pain, torment of unspeakable proportions, which would drive a man to kill himself the way he did. That focused thought was driven by these voices. Robin Williams admitted it. People who knew him intimately knew that he battled his demons. Robin Williams was driven to suicide by voices in his head, telling him, focusing him on the terrible times going on in his life, and that is what killed Robin Williams. Yeah,
Mike, you make an amazing point, and I'm very blessed that at the church that my wife and I attend, that I get to teach a senior youth boys Sunday school class, and I always make the point, because I have lived this in my own life and I have seen it over and over again with so many people, that we must be careful what we open our minds and our lives up to, especially in our youth. Yeah. Because we will fight those battles from that point until the day that we die. And if you, like you said, if you do not develop that relationship with the Lord and allow Him to overcome those battles for you, then they will ultimately overtake you. It may not be through suicide, but they will ultimately overtake you. And it is a demonic battle. There is no doubt about it.
And I would just close this segment with this, Brandon, that Jesus is our example in all matters. And when Jesus was battling the chief of demons out in the desert, Jesus was being confronted by this voice.
Yes, he was.
The chief voice of darkness. And how did Jesus respond to that? Jesus spoke out loud with his words, the very word of God.
Yes, he did.
Jesus said, "It is written." Now, when we are confronted with these voices, we can do the exact same thing. that I am valuable. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I have value to God. And on and on and on the list goes. We don't even have time to go over the list of quotations that we can use to shut the enemy's mouth, and he will flee from us as long as we submit to God. That is step one. Step two, resist the devil using the word of God, and he will run away like a scared little devil that he is. And that is our advice to you. And if you want any more information on this, or you want a free copy of my book, which gets into this a little deeper, the book is called Fast Track to Freedom, and you can get a free copy by emailing me, ppsimmons@live.com.
Mike, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the next section.